have to fear is
In war,
fear itself.
there is no substitute for victory.
Let us never negotiate out of fear.
We stand undivided, forever united, fighting hand in hand for the liberty we've earned, for glory and honor, for our sons and daughters, ever mindful of the lessons we've learned. Let the torch of freedom burn.
Welcome to the intersection of faith and politics. WallBuilders Live with David Barton and Rick Green. Thank you for joining us today. Visit online at wallbuilders.com and wallbuilderslive.com. David, today's topic is a follow-up on a show we did a few weeks ago, and I know sometimes we hit a topic that really gets under your skin and you say, man, this is something we got to do something about. Then there's a topic I'll get real passionate about. This one hit both of us pretty hard. We're both very passionate about this and want to see it change. It has to do with parental rights, and a young lady up in Massachusetts literally kidnapped by a hospital and then the state and taken from her parents. It's been 15 months now, and the parents still can't get her back.
Yeah, this little girl, great little girl, she had some medical problems. She was a very athletic little girl, checked into the hospital, and the doctor's hospital, no more than parents, of course, as all government officials do, and so disagreed with all the other experts who had been treating this girl for a long period of time, and said, no, it's all in this girl's head, and we're taking it away from the parents because they obviously are abusing this girl by taking her for the top medical treatment in the state to Tufts Medical Center, and obviously they're following exactly what the doctors are saying, and that's abuse of the child, so we're taking this girl. And it was simply a brand-new medical guy, seven months out of medical school, who know more than all these guys have been practicing for years, and the parents didn't want to do what he said. They wanted to do what the more professional, experienced doctors have said, and therefore that's child abuse, and so they took the girl away.
And David, I know you know some people may think you're saying this tongue-in-cheek. This is not an exaggeration. You're describing exactly what happened.
That is exactly what happened. They took it away. They have had this girl for 14 months. She has been denied education. They have said, since it's all in your head, you don't get health care. Well, now this little thing that's in her head has taken her from being a competitive skater to now she can't even walk. She's in a wheelchair, and obviously that's all in her head too. This, the 7-month expert out of medical school, it's all in her head. So how do you explain the diminishment of her health over this period of time? Swollen stomach, poison within her body has poisoned her, but it's all in her head, obviously. And I say this tongue-in-cheek because it really ticks me off that somebody knows more than parents. And out of this, it really
and the parents haven't been able to even get to her, but
No.
once a week for, what is it, an hour I think they get with her?
They have been allowing the parents to have 1 hour of supervised visit a week with the girl, a 20-minute phone call every week. That's it. And then when this thing finally went public, Glenn Beck was the first to publicize it. The Fox picked it. Well, I take that back. The Boston Globe had mentioned some articles on it, but Beck is the first to take it national, and then Fox picked it up in several other networks. And at that point, they got really ticked over the sunlight shining on them. They started squeezing the parents, taking more rights away from them, limiting the time they could have with their own daughter, et cetera. And so one of the things that it's come back to is we have forgotten some basic things. One of those basic things is what the Supreme Court said in 1925 in a case called Pierce versus Society of Sisters, and then repeated again in 1943 in a case Myers versus Nebraska, where the court said it is the fundamental right of parents to direct the education, upbringing, and care of their children. Parents get first call on their kids unless you have obvious physical abuse. Parents get first call on education. They get first call on how to raise the kids and what they believe. They get first call on how to care for their kids. And so now the state is smarter than everybody in everything, apparently, and especially so in this instance. And so they've taken this girl away.
And this one, David, I'm sorry to jump in on you, but this one's the opposite of what they're usually doing. Usually they're saying you're not giving a particular medical care that we think you should be giving, and they take the kid to go give them that. In this case, they're saying you're trying to give your kid, you're trying to give them everything the doctors have told you to do, and we think you shouldn't be doing that. So we're going to prevent you from giving your kid care. It's crazy.
They officially severed parental rights and made Justina a ward of the state. And by Massachusetts state law, when you make her a ward of the state, you're allowed to do medical experimentation on her. I don't think the experiments are going too well right now based on how she looks in the pic. And see, this is another thing that really ticked off because some of the people who went in the room actually snuck in little iPhone cameras and took pictures of the girl, and she's in bad shape. And it's very obvious. And so now they're really ticked and taking more parental rights away because you let somebody get a picture out there of what we're doing. And so this thing just stinks to high heaven all over. But the way to solve this in your state, and by the way, we found out that this has been going on in many, many states. They just don't get publicized because the government doesn't like to admit when it makes a mistake. And so you need to go to parentalrights.org.
Yeah.
Get that parental rights amendment entered in your state. Talk to your legislator, your very rep, your very state rep, your very state senator, and say, we want this done in our state because we don't want what's Massachusetts happening here. And by the way, this is happening in all the states across the United States to some degree, some worse, some less worse. But nonetheless, this is the poster child for why this amendment needs to be passed. And all the amendment does is just codifies in law what the Supreme Court has said on 2 previous occasions, and that needs to be that parents do have the right to direct the education, upbringing, and care of their children. But given all the new turns that have happened this last week since all this has been coming to light and the way the government's been reacting negatively toward the illuminations been shown on them, we thought it's time to get Matt Staver to give us another update on this.
Yeah, Matt Staver from Liberty Council came in to help the family. Just a great organization and great attorney, dean out at Liberty Law School, just a phenomenal guy. And fortunately, we're going to get him back on today. And as we're going to break, David, that website again, parentalrights.org, and folks may remember that where we've talked about an amendment to the U.S. Constitution, but this is now actually an effort to do it in each of the states. And like you were saying, that legislation, it works. They did it in Michigan, and Mike Ferris, who heads that up and helped to get that done years ago, they were able to stop things just like what's happening here in Massachusetts. So the very few states that have done it, it has been wonderful for the people there. All of the states that haven't done it, you got to get it done or you're going to be in the same situation as Massachusetts. Matt Staver is going to give us an update when we return right here on WallBuilders Live.
This is David Barton with another moment from America's history. Christians have always believed that the greatest life-changing experience available to any individual is a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, and the testimonies of numerous converts confirm the dramatic changes which often accompany salvation. One such testimony of change comes from founding father Noah Webster, who explained, "I was led by a spontaneous impulse to repentance, prayer, and entire submission and surrender of myself to my Maker and Redeemer. I now began to understand and relish many parts of the Scriptures which before appeared mysterious and unintelligible. In short, my view of the Scriptures, of religion, of the whole Christian scheme of salvation, and of God's moral government are very much changed. The power of God to change a life yielded to Him was just as evident at the time of the Founding Fathers as it still is today."
For more information on God's hand in American history, contact WallBuilders at 1-800-8-REBUILD.
Let the torch of freedom burn.
Welcome back to the intersection of faith and politics. WallBuilders Live with David Barton and Rick Green. Matt Staver back with us from Liberty Council. Matt, good to have you on, sir.
Good to be with you, Rick.
Hey, just had you a week or so ago on the case with Justina in Massachusetts. Wanted to get an update from you. The more I read about this, the more appalling it becomes.
Well, this is outrageous what has gone on in this case. 14 months ago, the family took their daughter, who was then 14, now 15, to the emergency room at Boston Children's Hospital in Massachusetts at the direction of their treating physician that was treating her, Dr. Corson from Tufts Medical Center, who is the chief of metabolics there, treating her for mitochondrial disease. He recommended that the family go there because that's where a gastroenterologist who had been seeing her at Tufts recently moved to. And when they went there, instead of seeing him, a brand-new doctor, 7 months out of medical school, ultimately changed the diagnosis, called in a psychologist at Boston who saw the little girl for 25 minutes and changed it to a mental rather than a physical condition, gave the family a new treatment plan. Here's the treatment plan: no medical, no medicine, no second opinions, no discussing medical in the presence of your daughter. Sign this, and this is the direction we're going to go. And when the family said, no thanks, we'll discharge her, go back to Tufts, they called in DCF, and that was 14 months ago, and they've lost custody of their daughter ever since.
And you guys have been on the ground fighting this for a couple of weeks now, and the court system there just seems to be non-responsive. It's amazing.
It's nuts. In fact, what's gone on here, what we have here is an out-of-control system. You've got Boston Children's Hospital that thinks that their opinions come from God himself, and you can't question them. DCF is called in, and they rubber stamp it, and then the judge just kicks the can down the road, doesn't write anything down, no written opinions. Last week, he finally issued the first written opinion of this 14-month odyssey. It was only 4 pages, no facts justifying why DCF could hold her, other than to say, yeah, DCF, you can still hold her. And parents, if you want to come back and revisit this, well, come back 6 months after December. So sometime in June, you can come back. I'll rehear it. But the burden's on you if you want to have your child back. In the meantime, she's going to stay in the custody of DCF. So for 14 months, she hasn't had hardly any at all medical care. She's gone from ice skating competitions in January 2013, just before she was admitted, to being in a wheelchair. She's losing her hair. She's got swelling and edema in her body. The situation is getting dire. She's had no education for 14 months. She's lost at least 2 academic years of her school. She's now going to be at least 2 years behind her classmates, whom she hasn't been able to see for 14 months. She hasn't been able to see her grandmother, 92 years old, for 14 months. I mean, this is just an outrageous situation.
I really expected, Matt, and I wonder if maybe you didn't as well, that as soon as there was some good representation for the family and Justina as well, that these guys would back off and realize what they had done. I cannot believe how much they're stonewalling you. The whole nation is upset about this. I mean, but they don't seem to care.
Yeah, you know, the fact of the matter is I filed 2 motions to be admitted to represent the family at their request. And this judge on the first one just kicked the can down the road, and after the First Amendment issue on the gag order for which we originally came in was resolved within 4 days after we got there, he says, well, I don't think you need that counsel anymore. They're here for First Amendment issues. The family said, no, we still want them because they're experts in other areas. The judge then kicked that can down the road and then finally said, no, never mind. You've got local counsel here in Massachusetts. That's enough. You don't need any outside experts like Liberty Council. So still not admitted. We're still working with the family. We're working with the local council in Massachusetts. A counsel that we've now brought into the case has 45 years experience. So we've got a new legal team on the ground, and we're still involved, and we're now working to file some appeals. We'll be filing an appeal later this week. We're trying to get this out of this court system so we can get before some judges who will actually look at the case and act. Anybody who looks at this case, anybody who looks at the evidence will clearly say they have no reason to be involved, because this is just about 2 medical institutions disagreeing over medical care. One that are experts that have been treating her, for which she's been doing well. The other, rookies who just were 7 months out of medical school, and a psychologist who was doing research. And by the way, once you become a ward of the state, you're a subject for research at that same Boston Children's Hospital.
Matt, back on the legal thing just for a second. You've practiced in virtually every state in the country. You've been before the Supreme Court multiple times. Have you ever had so much trouble being able to represent a client that wants you to represent them? I've never seen counsel denied like this.
No, never. I've practiced for 27 years. I practiced all over the country in state and federal courts. Never had any problem getting admitted with a local counsel there. Our local counsel there is an experienced person who's now on the ground, 45 years experience, and he's a Massachusetts admitted attorney. There's no reason why I should not have been admitted as well. I've never had any time in 27 years where I wasn't able to be admitted to any court in any part of the country to represent a family, except for this one. This is the first one. And, of course, this is a case that is the first for anybody who gets involved. It's the first case where you've actually seen, although we've now starting to get calls from other people around the country where this has happened, where the family is giving expert medical treatment to a child, and it's benefiting them, and some other expert says, no, it needs to be this way. And when the family say, no, thank you, we'll continue on the track that's actually been helping her, the state steps in and takes the child. I've never seen anything quite like this.
When we first talked, Matt, a couple weeks ago on this, we talked about the need to prevent this in other states. After dealing with it for a couple of weeks, are you even more adamant about the fact that states need to get out in front of this thing and get state legislation passed?
Oh, very much. We've got a draft piece of legislation that we've put together with others on this case, and we are proposing it to the state legislators in Massachusetts. And also we suggested it be passed in other states as well to stop these kinds of things from happening. We've now learned that there's other families that this has happened to that have taken their children to Boston Children's Hospital for medical reasons, and they've changed it to mental. And when the parents didn't want to follow that advice, wanted to check them out and go back to their treating physicians, they called in DCF, and the same thing happened again. Now, just last week, they have a 1-hour weekly visitation In fact, on this one day, they have a 20-minute telephone call and a 1-hour in-person visitation with the presence of DCF workers. In the most recent 20-minute telephone call to their daughter, the person in the room counts off the minutes, and they'll say 10 minutes left, 5 minutes left, 1 minute left, and then when that 1 minute, that 60 seconds is gone, click, you're gone, conversation over, no matter where you are in the sentence. Click, it's done, 20 minutes is up. And then on Thursday of last week, the Pelletiers got a call, and they were told, the visitation tomorrow, it's off. Personal visitations, in-person visitations are canceled indefinitely. They're all going to be by Skype now. There's too much media attention on this case. All of them by Skype. And we had to protest for several hours, chasing down voicemail after voicemail, finally getting real people on the line after many attempts. And then at 11:30, just a few hours before the 1 o'clock visitation on Friday, they reversed their position and said, okay, you can now visit her in person. Well, this family has to make preparations. They're 3 to 5 hours, depending upon traffic, because they live in Connecticut. They don't even live in Massachusetts. This is a Connecticut family. They just took their daughter across the border to Massachusetts for one emergency room treatment at Boston Children's Hospital.
This sounds like something out of an exaggerated draconian novel. I mean, it doesn't even seem like it's real. As I said earlier, I mean, you've practiced all kind. I mean, Supreme Court, Obamacare cases. I have a feeling this one may be more frustrating to you than any case you've ever dealt with. I can't believe people aren't just, well, they are outraged. I see the responses, but what can they do? What can people that are even in other states, as they're watching this travesty happen, what do you recommend to them?
Well, I recommended that they contact Governor Patrick. He can put an end to this. He can cause an investigation. He's basically been trying to ignore it. He's got political aspirations. He really needs to get involved in this case. You know, we've had 94 kids die in DCF custody in Massachusetts, 134 that are currently unaccounted for. We just don't know where they are. That's in addition to the 94. The DCF director is so under fire and incompetent, tendered her resignation, but the governor has refused to accept it. So he needs to get involved. You can go to lc.org, and you can click on Justina Pelletier, and you can go to a website that will have some information on petitions and other things that they can get involved, or where they can make calls and make their voice known.
Matt, how are they doing, the family? I know when we talked before, there were serious financial challenges because of what all this has cost and legal and all that. Is that still something that needs to be done for folks to give in that way? Yeah,
they can still do that, too, and you can go to freejustina.com to help the family out financially. This is a family that they live in a nice home. They have 4 daughters. They're 30, 25, 20, and then Justina's 15. But they've been, as you can imagine, consumed with this day after day, trying to get their daughter back, and it has really hit them financially with the cost and expenses, and just being unable to really hold down a reasonable job. I mean, for example, he is self-employed, but it just takes a lot of effort.
I can't even imagine how you would focus on anything else. I mean,
well, it's hard to focus.
Yeah.
You know, it's like 2 weekends ago, Justina was taken to the ER at UMass, and we don't know why. DCF won't say. And when the family visit on Friday, they can't talk to her about medical conditions. They can't say, Justina, what happened? What'd they do to you at the ER? And they're not getting information.
I would be, and the family, by the way, the family is still, I mean, they're united. This is not some legal battle between, parents and kids or cousins or grand. They're all on the same page. It's the family against the government.
Yeah, this is an unusual family in the sense that they've been married for many years. They've not been divorced. It's the same husband and wife. They've got 4 loving children who love them, and they love them as well, 15, 20, 25, and 30. And they are, just a great family. And they're unusual in that sense. They're an intact family that's doing the right thing.
Wow.
That love each other, and the state of Massachusetts stepped in.
Matt, I hope we can get you back for more updates later. Before I let you go, question that I don't know how far you want to go on this one or not, but how much of this is due to what I consider to be an incestuous relationship between the child protective organizations and CASA and the judges? These judges seem to just rubber stamp whatever comes through because they don't want to ever be in the situation of not taking a kid away and something happens to the kid. and too often it ends up being the opposite. The kid gets hurt in the system. How much of this is that?
Yeah,
that
there's
problem?
a lot of that. You got three things. You got Boston Children's Hospital. Don't question our medical opinions. If you don't like it, we're going to call in DCF and we're going to force you to do it. DCF rubber stamps that, and then the judge rubber stamps DCF, and then not only rubber stamps it, but doesn't even make a decision, just kicks the can down the road. So all these three things working together, you get caught in that system, and I tell you what, it is a nightmare.
Yeah, it is. I can only imagine how helpless the family feels. I thank God for you and for Liberty Council, for you guys stepping in and helping them, and we pray for just that God will part the Red Sea for you guys there, and there'll be able to be a solution. FreeJustina.com is the website to donate to the family. LC.org is where you can go to keep up with the case and follow what Matt and these guys are doing on this case. Matt, we appreciate you, brother. Thank you for standing for this family.
Thank you. My pleasure to be with you.
That's Matt Staver. Back in a moment with David Barton.
Hey guys, this is Tim Barton with WallBuilders, and I know you hear my dad and Rick talk a lot about our founding fathers, about the original intent of our nation, the constitutional heritage that we have, and really we've seen how far we've slipped away from that. And I know a lot of us, as we hear my dad and Rick talk, think, I wish there was a place that I could go and I could see these documents, and I could read and learn about the founding fathers firsthand, see the things they did. And I want to give you some websites today that can help you accomplish that very thing. If you get online, you can go to places like Library of Congress, and you can look under their Century of Lawmaking or historical documents. You can go to the Avalon Project, to the Founders Constitution, to Google Books, or even the Internet Archives, or you can just go to WallBuilders' website. We have a section for our library, and under that section we have different subgroups for historical documents, historical writings, even a place where you can get helpful links to find out more information about other websites where you can do research for yourself and find the truth for yourself. Friends, this is a time that we need to know who we are and where we came from. WallBuilders.com is a great place to go.
Let the torch of freedom burn.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us here on WallBuilders Live. Special thanks to Matt Staver and Liberty Council. Visit their website at lc.org. You'll be able to keep up with this case and many other important ones they're fighting. And then also go to parentalrights.org and find out what you can just click on your state. It's very easy to use. There's a map there. Click on your state. It'll tell you what you can do to help get that passed in your state. David, I know we were upset last time we got an update on this. It's just getting worse.
Well, I was talking with Matt, and we were reviewing some of the things. And one of the things that we were talking about is how many state laws this judge has violated. Because when this kind of case comes before him, a DCF case, they have 72 hours in which to write a written opinion on disposition of the child. It went about 6 weeks before they did, and they never gave a written opinion. And as Matt said, and by the way, the law requires some written opinions all the way throughout this process. And so this judge has been making rulings for about 14 months and finally got around doing a written opinion last time. All these other opinions should have been written, and we just went through all the state laws that this judge has violated. And so, we thought that's something we ought to come out with at some point, is show how this judge, just individually, has violated all these statutory state requirements. I mean, that's one thing that really ticks me off, is a judge who, as too many judges often do, we got some good judges, but we got too many who think they're above the law, that they write the law, and that's one that this judge, don't make him account for anything. Don't make him explain why he's doing what he's doing. He just said it, and you'll just do exactly what he said. And that mentality's got to be exposed. The second thing that stands out to me is Matt said that she had edema in the body. And edema, if you know what that is, that's poisoning kind of on the inside of your system that causes a swelling of fluids in your body tissues. So, suddenly your ankle and your feet swell up, and your chest swells up, and your abdomen swells up. And I don't think poison in the body is a psychological condition. I don't think swelling caused from that kind of edema is all in her head. So I would think that medical diagnosis of that 7-month out of med school intern just might be a little wrong here. But isn't it interesting that when the parents refused to sign the paper that said they would not get a second opinion, that they took Justina away from the parents? You would want a second opinion.
Yeah.
And then you've got 72 years of experience between Matt and the new Massachusetts attorney, and neither one of them have ever seen the court turn down a request for whoever the defendant wants as an attorney, parents or anybody else, in a criminal trial, whatever. If I go into court and I say I want Rick Green as my attorney, then the court says, okay, that's your choice. But here, after 72 years experience, they've never seen this, and this judge says, well, I don't want you to represent the family. Wait a minute. How about what the family wants?
Yeah.
Why doesn't the family get to choose the medical legal counsel they want? And by the way, let me just repeat that sentence again. Why doesn't the family get to choose the medical legal counsel they want? Or let me say it again. Why doesn't the family get to choose the medical health care they want? Or let me say it again. Why doesn't the family get to choose the type of education they want?
Because the states know better. The government knows better. They're the ones that need to run. You know, you're exactly, and you nailed it. Even education, I mean, all these things.
Educational choice, healthcare choice, a choice of the type of car I drive, a choice of the type of energy I want to use, a choice over what I want to build on my own land. No, the government's going to tell me how to do all of that. And the other thing that really stands out,
and they're going to tell you who your counsel can be, even in this case. Yeah,
that's right. They're going to tell you everything you need. You don't need any. Don't think for yourself. We think for you. But as the Boston Globe points out, and Matt mentioned, 95 children have died in the care of this state. 95 children have died. All right. There's 134 kids that are lost and unaccounted for. We assume they're dead until the state proves otherwise. So you have, let's assume here, about 230 kids who have died or been lost in this system, and the governor has refused to accept the resignation of the head of this agency?
Wow.
230 kids dead and unaccounted for, and you won't accept that? Yeah, I mean, this is out of hand. Call the governor's office. Matt's right. Call the governor's office. Make some noise on this. This needs to come from all across the nation. He does not want sunlight on this. Let's make this an issue.
And protect your kids and the people in your state by getting that legislation passed in your state, parental rights. .org. Don't let this happen to your family or someone you love or anyone even in your state you don't even know. This is an atrocity. It's got us upset. It's got people all over the country upset, and we've got to stop this. It shouldn't happen in America. Thanks for listening today, folks. You've been listening to WallBuilders Live with David Barton and Rick Green.
We stand under